This hour of the Costa Report is brought to you by Dole Food Company, the world's leading producer and distributor of fresh fruits and vegetables.
Welcome to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and thank you for joining me for another 2 hours of Straight Talk Radio. I want to welcome new listeners joining us in San Francisco, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Denver, New York City, and from coast to coast, including new friends in Alaska and Hawaii. I also want to take a moment to welcome our men and women in the armed forces who are serving us abroad and tuning in over the internet today. Thank you for catapulting the Costa Report to one of the fastest growing news programs in the country. We're going to tackle a subject that affects everyone and anyone who uses the internet, and that is the subject of new regulations the government is putting into place, allegedly designed to protect individual privacy and regulate illegal activities. Drew Johnson, the National Director of Protect Internet Freedom, a nonprofit organization with over 1.6 million supporters, will be joining us to get to the bottom of the new regulations and what impact they're going to have on all Internet users. But before Mr. Johnson joins the program, as is my custom each week, let me tell you a little about his background. Drew Johnson was born in Johnson City, Tennessee. He earned his undergraduate degree from Belmont University in Nashville and his graduate degree from Pepperdine University. Johnson served as the founder and president of the free market think tank Beacon Center and also the opinion editor of the Chatanooga Times Free Press. He has been a columnist and chief editorial writer for the Washington Times, policy analyst for the National Taxpayers Union, served multiple terms on the Tennessee Commission on Children, and was a member of the Tennessee Advisory Committee to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. Many who know him would say that public service has been an ongoing theme throughout Johnson's life, and they would be right. In addition to being the National Director of Protect Internet Freedom, Mr. Johnson is also a senior scholar at the Taxpayers Protection Alliance and writes for the Daily Caller, among other publications. It's my pleasure to welcome to the Costa Report Mr. Drew Johnson. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Johnson.
Hi, Rebecca. Thanks for that warm introduction.
Now, I think it's safe to say that more people use the internet than are aware of the regulations the government is presently putting into place to control and censor the internet. Now, you claim there is a power grab underway. So for those of us that are not familiar with the proposed regulations, let's start with exactly what those regulations are and how they impact the person on the street.
Absolutely. So right now we're seeing sort of a battle between the FCC and the Obama administration. And frankly, you and I, just regular users of the internet, there's a real power grab in Washington over who gets special benefits. Our argument at Protect Internet Freedom is that nobody should get them, that the internet should be basically free of government overreach and allowed to be this real haven for democratic debate and opportunity and entrepreneurship. Some of the real issues that we're seeing right now involve things like privacy, where the government says that it's trying to help secure individuals' privacy as they use the internet. But frankly, what we're seeing is privacy isn't at all what the topic is about. It's about punishing certain businesses and awarding others. And we see other issues like municipal broadband, zero rating, free data issues that really all come down to who should manage the internet and how much control should the government have.
Well, now, how would this affect someone who's just sending emails or posting on social media or shopping on the internet? Give us a specific example on how this might affect us.
Absolutely. Well, one example is with the free data example I just mentioned, zero rating, which basically allows people on their cell phone to have free data to access certain websites and to stream certain content. And the government is saying no, or certain people in the FCC are saying, no, you shouldn't be allowed to have access to free data. you shouldn't have the opportunity to have to watch certain things for free or to go to certain websites for free. The problem with that, obviously, is that it restricts our freedom to get data and to get things over the internet. And I know growing up in rural Appalachia, relatively poor, that to have access to the internet basically for free would have been such a pleasure and such a great opportunity for me to sort of see the greater world. And opponents of this idea are saying, no, you shouldn't have access to free internet. It's a really a concerning issue.
So, in other words, they would ask service providers to charge you for, let's say, looking at educational videos over YouTube. Exactly.
One good example of this is something that's being offered by T-Mobile right now. And that service basically allows you to watch certain content for free with no data applied to your data caps. And that's something that we're all aware of. You know, we all know when we're getting close to our data limit and we don't want to have to pay the overage fees. In this case, you wouldn't have to pay anything for the content that you're viewing. And what that does is it frees up content for you to other content, other data opportunities, so that you can, go surf the net or get on Facebook and talk to your friends or whatever the case may be. But that's a real example of the government micromanaging the internet or thinking about micromanaging the internet in a way that impacts, tens of millions of people, if not more than 100 million people in the United States.
Why not just let the independent service providers like T-Mobile make the decision as to what they want to charge for and what content they'd like to offer free?
See, from my perspective and the perspective of Protect Internet Freedom, we believe that is how it should be because there are so many choices for Americans. We believe that if one provider doesn't offer what you want, then you've got all the opportunity in the world to go to 10 other providers. What the government is seeing now, or what the Federal Communications Commission is seeing, is this push by this sort of ivory tower elite who basically are the same folks behind the net neutrality push. So we're talking about the Ford Foundation, George Soros, and there's basically a network of organizations that are kind of more or less front groups for those two foundations that work together to make it look like there's this big push for net neutrality and for getting rid of free data, when in fact it's not. There's not a big push. Most people are opposed to the idea of government ultimately taking away your ability to get something for free from a service provider, an internet provider.
But I guess what I'm getting at is, why? What benefit does it give the government, right, to interfere with what's free and what's not? What do they get out of that?
Basically, the first thing they get is applause from the people who push for net neutrality and these foundations and these organizations. Ultimately, what these groups make it appear to be, these sorts of fights, is about leveling the playing field. It's about making sure that everybody gets everything free and equal. But the problem with that is that, first of all, it takes away a lot of the great things that the internet has brought us. It takes away our ability to use certain websites for free, as I mentioned before. And it really restricts the will of internet service providers and other people from coming in and putting in their money, investing to give us opportunities as consumers. And so it's a really concerning threat that this has become more and more prevalent, that the thought that we should all have this level playing field when there's no real need for it and there's so much detriment to it.
Right. So I think what you're saying is it's just basically interference with free market principles that would ultimately decide what's free and what's not. The market would naturally take care of that without interference. Exactly. We have to take our first break, but stay where you are. We'll be right back with more from Drew Johnson. You're listening to the Costa Report.
Hi, I'm Joan London. If you're worried about your parent or loved one living alone, like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service.
Finding an apartment that was on the courtyard with the view of the trees, the view of the ducks, the stream, the creek, all of that, that was what I needed.
You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information. Here's the number.
To speak with a local senior living advisor, call A Place for Mom at 800-451-2976. That's 800-451-2976.
A Place for Mom is a free service, and you can trust them to help you. So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
To speak with a local senior living advisor, call A Place for Mom at 800-451-2976. That's 800-451-2976.
The holiday season is just around the corner, and I want to share one of my favorite tips for being able to avoid that last-minute dash to buy something that screams, "I didn't put much thought into this." Now imagine a different scenario this year. Imagine the surprise on your loved one's face when they open the first page of the Watchman's Rattle and see a custom dedication in their name by the author. The best part is it's so easy. Just go to RebeccaCosta.com, do it right now, and click on the book cover, and presto, in less than 3 minutes you can request the inscription you want. So do it now. Go to RebeccaCosta.com, and this year, give an affordable, thoughtful gift that says, "This is for you and only you." That's RebeccaCosta.com.
Let's celebrate Think Local First Day in Santa Cruz. Yes, Thursday is the first ever Think Local First Day in Santa Cruz, and as a member of the locally owned business community, you're invited to join the celebration at Think Local First's annual holiday kickoff mixer Thursday 5 to 7:30 at the KSCO Party Plaza. Come dress for the sunset and celebrate with a speech from the mayor and other very important people. Live music from Danceland, guided tours of KSCO's historic studios, a hosted microphone to tell the world about your business, turkey dinner tastings from the Turkey Boat, pumpkin pie from Beckman's, brews from Nubo, wine from Santa Arcangeli. It's Thursday, the first ever Think Local First Day in Santa Cruz. Dress for the sunset, join your friends and neighbors from the locally owned business community Thursday 5 to 7:30 at the KSCO Party Plaza. Celebrate Think Local First Day Thursday 5 to 7:30 at KSCO.
Newspapers are just as good an advertising medium as radio.
Sure. Driving home at night, you can enjoy your newspaper as it lies there on the seat. And there's another good thing about newspapers. You can read them while you're rushing to get ready for work in the morning, right?
Who listens to radio? That go where you go medium called radio. That's with you every night through the long commuter fight, and in the morning with your toast and mama-lady-o. Who listens to radio? No matter if it's summer, winter, spring, or fall. Who listens to radio? Only 150 million. 150 million people. That's all.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is the National Director of Protect Internet Freedom, Mr. Drew Johnson. Now, most people believe they enjoy a certain amount of privacy on the internet, or they wouldn't be sending many of the emails and photographs that they do. But you point out that we are unaware of just how much information about us and our activities are being collected. So let's take the new Pokemon Go application, for example. Tell us what kind of information is being collected about the folks who are playing this new Pokemon Go.
Oh, absolutely. That's a real example of how your information is taken and then ultimately sold and used and companies profit from it. With Pokemon Go, you can actually see your exact location, how long you've been there, how long you've been on the app, other places that you go even when the app's not up and running, your website, or your email address, who you're talking to. It's really basically everything that someone would want to know about you. And then the company behind Pokemon Go is able to sell this information and make money off of it, which obviously is the trade-off you make if you're getting something for free. If you're using, now there's a reason you don't pay for Gmail, or if you're using an app like Pokemon Go and it doesn't cost any money, there's a reason for that.
Well, the reason is that data that they collect on you is valuable, and rather than charge you for the application, they sell the data and make money off of you.
That's exactly right, and that sort of opens up another conversation about government overreach, which is a new FCC privacy rule that the FCC is considering putting into place. So this new privacy rule, it's really corporate cronyism at its worst, because what it does is it puts really strict restrictions on internet service providers. So the people that you pay your monthly bill to use the internet, regarding collecting your privacy, selling your privacy. The problem is that those companies don't actually do that very often because they don't need to. They make the money when you pay your cell phone bill or your cable bill or your internet bill, whatever it may be. The people who end up making money off of your data are the Googles and the Facebooks and the Pokemon Go's and all these folks who literally what they do, how they make money, how Google is such a big company, how Facebook is such a big company, isn't by subscriptions or your payments to them, it's by selling your data. And so the FCC, in all its wisdom, has decided to really crack down on internet service providers while doing nothing at all about these what are called edge providers, these websites and apps that actually do collect your data and sell it. And so the reason that we've seen that is sort of, inside baseball in Washington, is that the Obama administration has taken millions of dollars and actually gotten a lot of personnel from Silicon Valley groups, the Googles and the Facebooks and people like that. And so there's this sort of push by the FCC to really punish internet service providers while helping the Facebooks and the Googles of the world. And it's really unfair and really concerning that, from my perspective and from the perspective of protecting net freedom, we think that there shouldn't be any government privacy laws. What there should be is a lot of transparency about how these companies are going to use your information, and then you can choose to opt out if you want to. And if you want to use it, then great, if you want to take advantage of those companies' offerings. But for the government to micromanage that and play favorites and ultimately help some companies and hurt others, it really, it's pretty much the most un-American thing I can think of. It's really chilling.
Let me see if I got this right. I think what you're saying is these new government regulations that are supposed to secure our privacy and not allow our data to be sold are being applied primarily to service providers who don't really make their money selling our data and collecting our data. And those who do make money collecting data and selling it are not going to be subject to these new regulations. Did I get that right?
Yeah, so if the government wanted to be as useless as possible, they're doing it, because if this goes through, you're exactly right. The people who are a threat to our privacy don't have any new rules, and the people who don't make money off of our information and don't have an incentive to take and collect our information, they're the ones who get punished. So it's completely.
But I think it goes worse than that, Mr. Johnson. I think it gives us the illusion that the government is working hard to protect our privacy, when in fact their regulations apply to people who are not invading our privacy.
So much of what the FCC does, what the administration does, what is done, even at the state and local level with things like municipal broadband, it's all just these facades and these illusions that the government is doing something to help the internet, when ultimately the internet is where it is today because the government was so far behind on regulating it that it ultimately didn't have a lot of regulations. And now it's the greatest thing that's ever happened in the history of the world. So in this case, you're exactly right. It gives an illusion that the government is doing something positive, when in fact it's not only not doing something positive, it's playing favorites and harming certain companies and helping others. And it's really exactly the opposite of what government should be doing.
Now, I want to get back to the kind of data, because we've got a lot of parents listening and grandparents and concerned cousins and aunts and uncles listening. And I want to go back to the kind of data that's collected by Pokemon Go, because I've got nephews and children that this is all the rage. But I don't think we stop to think that the location of your child as they're riding their bike from school to the ice cream shop can be downloaded. I can track the movements of your child. I can get in. I can buy your child's website or email address and who your child is talking to. This information's for sale.
That's something that I have a niece who loves Pokemon Go, and my sister, her mom, came to me and said, is this something I should be aware of? And I said, it's something every parent should be aware of, because we don't think about this when our 10-year-old, 15-year-old son, daughter, niece, nephew, grandchild, whatever it is downloading apps or using Gmail or whatever the case may be. But the fact of the matter is that anytime something's free that somebody uses on the internet, there's almost 100% certainty that free thing, whatever it is being traded, is trading on your information, where you are, what you're looking at, other sites you're going to, who you're talking to, how much time you spend talking to them.
And where you frequent, and the locations you frequent, and what time of day you frequent them.
And so there's a real concern that if this data gets hacked, if it's sold to the wrong person, if it falls in the wrong hands, then people are going to know where to find your kid at what time. And it's a really concerning issue. That's
right. And I do not know why the media, the mainstream media, is not covering this, because it is a true danger for all children that are downloading these apps onto their mobile phones. We have to take another commercial break, but stay tuned. We'll be right back after these important messages. You're listening to the Costa Report. I'm here today with Scott Caraccioli of Caraccioli Cellars, recent winners of the best sparkling wine in the U.S. in the Champagne and Sparkling Wine World Championship. Congratulations, Scott.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks for having me.
So what is it about your Brut Cuvée that beat all the other competitors around the world?
We really focus on creating an expression of the Santa Lucia Highlands and doing it the right way. And when you control the process from the beginning to the end and you have talent like Michelle and top-tier grapes, they really shine through.
This was a worldwide competition.
It was definitely a humbling experience. We were in a room with producers that have been making wine for over 100, 200 years, and was a huge honor to have Tom Stevenson give us the best U.S. Sparkling Wine Award. We fared really well overall. We had 3 wines win Best of Class, which was great.
Visit the Caraccioli Tasting Room on Dolores Street in Carmel by the Sea, or find us online at caracciolicellars.com, or reach us by phone 831-622-7722.
Valley Churches United wants to invite you to do your seasonal shopping at their holiday gift shop. You'll enjoy shopping for brand new toys, home goods, jewelry, accessories, and holiday decorations. The boutique is open November 1st through noon on Christmas Eve, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and is located at 9400 Highway 9 in Ben Lomond. All proceeds directly benefit Valley Church's programs for those in need.
Hi, registered pharmacist Ben Fuchs here. I've been studying healthy bodies for 35 years, and what I've got to tell you may shock and surprise you, but if you listen up, it may change your life. Known as neurotransmitters, with names like dopamine, serotonin, noradrenaline, and GABA, one of the most important of the neurotransmitters is a substance called acetylcholine. It's recognized for its relaxing effects. Acetylcholine actions are involved in calming the body down, opening blood vessels, stimulating secretion of digestive juices, and enhancing the movement of food through the digestive tract. It may have mild anti-suppressant effects, and it can enhance libido and sexuality. And acetylcholine also has a heart-slowing effect. But of all the important functions of acetylcholine, none is more important than its beneficial effects on the activity of the intellectual and learning centers of the brain. Deficiencies or defects in acetylcholine processing are associated with anxiety, insomnia, learning disability, dementias, Parkinson's disease, palsies, and other movement disorders, as well as schizophrenia. Make sure you're getting enough of the underappreciated nutrient choline. Choline, the newest nutrient to be included in the list of essential substances. Choline is a precursor to acetylcholine, and it's readily available in supplements. It's also a good idea to eat lots of choline-containing foods, including egg yolks, dairy, broccoli, chard, and organ meats. Lecithin granules, readily available in health food stores, are also especially effective as a source of choline. Pharmacist Ben here, urging you to go to kscohealth.com to order Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the Healthy Start Pack, and other nutritional supplements that I personally use and recommend. You can purchase these premium quality products at wholesale prices online at kscohealth.com. That's kscohealth.com. I'm the pharmacist that believes that staying healthy and strong is not only about medicine, it's about giving your body the raw materials it needs to do its work. Go to kscohealth.com. Make sure you check out the cool videos, too, at kscohealth.com. That's kscohealth.com.
Michael Olson's first law of the food chain. Agriculture is the foundation upon which we build all our sandcastles. That's right, folks. No surplus of food, no sandcastles. So before we all get upset from the dust and noise of agriculture, let's get together Saturday at 9 a.m. as the Food Chain Radio Show goes behind the scenes of the industry that keeps us all civilized. If you have a comment about the first law of the food chain, tell me, Michael Olson, all about it at metrofarm.com. Now, see you all on KSCO Saturday at 9 a.m. for some What's Eating What Radio on the food chain.
What day was that?
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and if you're just joining us, our guest today is the National Director of Protect Internet Freedom. It's interesting that almost half the users of the Internet come from Asia, mainly China, where the government restrictions are the harshest. Northern American usage represents only about 5%, which has caused the current administration to fast-track transferring the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, also called IANA, that assigns and maintains domain names to the global community. And several politicians, including Rubio and Cruz, have expressed concerns about the security risks that this will pose, even going so far as to say that this should be approved by Congress. Where do you stand on this?
It really is a concerning issue. What we're talking about, more or less, is the phone book of the Internet. So instead of putting in all these numbers and dots, we can just put in protectinternetfreedom.com and go to Protect Internet Freedom's website. And essentially that process, that sort of oversight has been taken care of by ultimately the Department of Commerce, a sub-agency of the Department of Commerce. And what this fast-track plan by President Obama would do is allow a nonprofit that ultimately would have a lot of pull, would be pushed and lobbied by countries like Russia and China, and people who just don't value Internet freedom the way that we do in the United States. And so the real threat here is what happens to our domain names, things like .gov and .mil, the military's domain names. Could those be taken away? Could those be altered in some way? There's also a lot of concern that the nonprofit that's going to be managing it ultimately has helped China silence users of the Internet and keep them off of certain websites, and really put up this ridiculous firewall that's keeping China from being able to freely use the Internet. And so it sort of rewards the people that you don't want rewarded. You want to reward the people who are making sure that their citizens can use the internet how they see fit, to look up words like democracy and freedom, which you literally cannot do in China. And this goes against all of that. This really puts the internet in the hands of people who we just don't know what they ultimately want to use it for. It could put it in the hands of the UN ultimately, but certainly it would allow people like Putin and China to have say over this portion of the internet.
Right, and to establish different rules that we're not used to with regards to how you can get a website or other kind of assigned number or address. And that's not anything that we normally think about. Now, when you want an internet address, because we're a country that believes in freedom of speech, you just apply and pay for it and done. But we're now talking about allowing other countries to determine what the rules of those assignments might be. But there is an argument to be made that with less than 5% of the total number of internet users, other countries ought to be able to weigh in on that. What do you make of that?
I think the day will come where that's completely reasonable. My concern is the way that it's set up currently is that it goes the nonprofit that will ultimately run it will be ICANN, and ICANN is just, frankly, the last folks that you would want to run it because, like I said, they've actually been sued by the American government for helping China again prevent its users from visiting certain sites. And what I would like to see is us as Americans continue to push, and this is something we do every day at Protect Internet Freedom, push countries who limit their internet users and prevent them from using certain websites and frankly, finding out the truth about what's happening in their nation. We want to push those countries to get better. And then as that happens, we'll be able to maybe share more of these opportunities. But right now, there's a real concern that it's going to be that this domain process will be hijacked by the wrong people. And another thing to keep in mind is right now, if we want a domain name, we go to GoDaddy or somebody like that, and we pay $8 or $10, and we've got it. Under this circumstance, there's a real chance that domain names may cost a lot more. And as you were getting at just a moment ago, there's a real concern that certain web names won't be available, and the .whatever at the end, a .freedom, for example, might not even be available.
That's right, because you can't even look up the word democracy. You're not allowed to do that on the Chinese internet. So if you had something like, democracytoday.com, it may not be allowed for that very reason. So we would be subject to different rules by very repressive regimes. Speaking of the free internet, the FCC is pushing municipal broadband expansion as well. We may all find ourselves paying for services that we get free today, not only in terms of usage fees, but also in terms of taxes that are needed to build out these statewide broadband services. Is that right?
Absolutely. So a lot of governments, and we've certainly seen it in Nevada, where I live, in Tennessee, where I'm from, where governments on the local level say what we need to do is attract businesses, give our residents the best internet possible, fastest speed, state-of-the-art internet access. And so they say we should build, as the government, as the local government, as the electric company, we should build a broadband network. The problem with that is that in the history of the United States, government-owned broadband networks have literally never worked. Every time the government gets in the business of broadband and builds these big fiber networks like we see in Chattanooga, like we see in Utah, the list goes on and on. What happens is the initial expense is generally hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's money that we have to pay for as taxpayers. And then the people behind it, the mayor, the guy who runs the local electric company, gets to feel like a hero for a day. But the problem is that there's millions of dollars in upkeep every year. And so ultimately these projects are never able to recoup their money. Taxpayers lose millions of dollars a year, and ultimately taxes increase so that the upkeep can be managed. There's some terrible examples. For example, in Utah, in Provo, Utah, there was a network that was built that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and then ultimately it was about $100 million with interest on the bonds that were used. Ultimately, it was sold off for $1 because they were losing $6 or $7 million a year, and taxes had already been raised, and ultimately the residents of Provo said, that's enough, we just aren't willing to pay any more, because they don't have to use these municipal broadband networks. They can go to whatever local internet service provider they've got, whether it's a cable company or a phone company or a satellite network or whatever. And so that's the real funny part about this, is that in 90% of places in America, we already have more than 3 options to choose from, and where these municipal broadband projects are taking place are almost exclusively places where there's already a lot of competition, where there's already good options and people competing to keep prices low and service good. So there's no need, other than basically the arrogance of local officials to build these things.
Right. Well, they're building redundant service, and unfortunately, they're building redundant service that isn't as good as the service that is already available to people. And, I take the state of Kentucky. They use that same justification. Well, we're going to get the internet to people in rural Kentucky that don't have it. But it turned out that 99% can get online via a wireless provider that exists. We have to take our last break, but we'll be right back. You're listening to the Costa Report.
Are you struggling with addiction or alcohol problems? If you're depressed, drinking, and using drugs, you may need help. And the Affordable Care Act guarantees coverage of substance abuse.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Call now for hope and help with proven, gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969.
Think about all of the things our country accomplished. We didn't just cure polio and win the race to the moon. We also helped raise Europe up from post-war ashes, created and connected highways from coast to coast, and invented the Internet, all things central to our daily lives. How did a relatively young nation pull that off? Talent. Here in the 21st century, America needs talent. We have to produce it and deploy it in ways that are different from the past. In his book, America Needs Talent, globally recognized leader in philanthropy, higher education, and policy, Jamie Mirasotis explains why workforce talent is critical to ushering in a new era of innovation. Get your copy of America Needs Talent and do it today. Go to americaneedstalent.com.
Wildfires, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, a crashing economy. Are you ready? At best, your local stores have a 3-day supply of food. Will your family have to fight over what's left? Are you willing to gamble your family's safety that it'll never happen to you? Be wise and be ready with 25-year shelf life Wise Food Storage. Wise Food Storage provides affordable, ready-made gourmet meals with a super long 25-year shelf life. Meals like pasta Alfredo Alfredo, cheesy lasagna, breakfast, dessert, drinks, and snacks? Just add water and your family is eating delicious food instead of fighting for scraps in a food riot. Try it free. Order a no-obligation free sample meal delivered right to your front door. And for a limited time, get a 10% discount and free shipping on all orders. Once done, you're set for 25 years. Be wise and be ready with Wise Food Storage. Call for your free sample now. 800-775-9353. 800-775-9353. 800-775-9353.
Here's how to laugh off high energy bills. Listen to the Get It Right Solar Show Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. here on KSCO. Be one of the first 10 callers to 805-372-0072 and get $1,000 off solar. Yes, you'll instantly save $1,000 on your solar by calling 805-372-0072 or by going to thesolarprofit.com and filling out the online request form. That's thesolarprofit.com. Tune in Get It Right Solar this Saturday, 8 a.m. on KSCO.
Hi, I'm Greg.
And I'm Marlene.
And we're the hosts of Flavors
on KSCO 1080.
We're going to be talking about restaurants, cookbooks,
wine, and reviews.
And all sorts of other things. If you like olive oils, this is the place.
So remember to tune in on Sundays at noon.
And remember, flavor's everything.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and we're speaking today with Drew Johnson. So about this time, a lot of listeners are probably shaking their heads and wondering what they can do to protect their privacy, protect their children, stop the U.S. government from taking control of the Internet or making unwise investments in statewide broadband. So tell us about Protect Internet Freedom. I believe at last count you had over 1.6 million supporters. Is that right?
We do, and those supporters really are what make Protect Internet Freedom, because by being one of those supporters, getting our emails, keeping up with what we're doing, that allows you to really have a voice. When the FCC, for example, tries to push through these ridiculous privacy laws and these zero rating laws where they're trying to take away free data, it allows you to make public comments when the FCC is making these rules. And the FCC really takes those comments into account. For example, with the privacy issue that we talked about a little earlier, 90% of the comments that were made were on our side, and we really spurred a lot of those comments, and I hope that the FCC will listen. But
there's a little bit of, I want to point out, there's a little bit of gamesmanship that goes on there, because there is a defined period in which you can comment, and it tends to be relatively short, and you better get your comments in at that time.
That's right. One of the things we saw with that privacy issue is that they had a glitch. The FCC had a glitch, and it ended up making it so that hundreds of thousands of commenters couldn't get their comments in on time. So they can play some games, but luckily we can get the word out when they do it, and hopefully restrict that and make it so that it doesn't happen in the future. But with Protect Internet Freedom, we believe that there's really no more pressing public policy issue than Internet freedom, and it's something that's so overlooked. And some of it's because it's so new and it's so fast moving, and some of it's because it's really esoteric. And when you talk about things like zero rating, what in the world is that? And you have to explain it's free data on your cell phone. And so we hopefully synthesize some of that and explain it in ways that people can understand. So I really encourage people to go to our website, protectinternetfreedom.com, and we'll keep you up to date on what the government's trying to do to take away your internet freedoms, what you can do about it. And another part of it, it's not just all, pushing back against dumb FCC rules or bad decisions by government, but it also looks at the international stuff that we were talking about a segment or two ago, where in places like Germany, where you would think they wouldn't have problems with internet freedom, there are real issues with silencing people who question the government. With places like China and Russia, obviously you have the government trying to keep their people from understanding what's happening on the global, broader scale with their countries. So about half making sure that our government does the right thing and half making sure that people do have freedom to take advantage of this wonderful, amazing revolution that's given so many people voices that never had them before in the internet.
Well, I will tell you, I do a lot of work overseas, and there is nothing more shocking than being in Shanghai and trying to collect your emails here in the United States and having that daunting government warning come up.
I've had the exact same situation.
Right, you get this government warning that says you will be arrested, right, immediately if you continue to try to access it's pretty shocking, and it, of course, it comes up when you try to access anything on YouTube, any videos, any emails. They are watching constantly, and you will be thrown into prison, and that'll be the last anybody hears from you. Now, I always like to follow the money when it comes to organizations like Protect Internet Freedom. How is your organization funded? Who finances you?
We get a lot of our money from those members you talked about. We're fortunate to have a good number of members who believe in what we do, who supports us, who's sort of willing to put their money where their mouth is as far as what they believe. We also do get some corporate contributions. We get Silicon Valley money. We get, quite a number of different places support us. But ultimately, we have a pretty clearly defined mission. And so
I would imagine the service providers would want to be on your side. I'm not so sure about the Googles and Facebooks of the world.
We actually get really broad support, and there's a lot of people who feel threatened by government regulations. But like I said, ultimately, it's more than anything, it's people who believe that their rights on the internet should be protected, that the internet is what it is today because a lack of government regulation, not because of the government. And that really covers a lot of people across a broad spectrum from the left to the right, and a lot of different kinds of interests and thoughts. So we're very fortunate in that we're on the right side of issues, and people understand that freedom ultimately is what has allowed the internet to be this great force for democracy.
Mm-hmm. Who's your largest sponsor?
To be honest, I don't know.
Okay, so it's so diversified, nobody jumps out.
Right, and I'm certainly not the person who goes out and keeps the lights on. I'm very fortunate that that fundraising is not my strong suit, so we have other people do that. So
well, yeah, it's always something that's fun to delegate when you can delegate it. It's a very, very tough road with so many nonprofits in the United States. Before we run out of time, where can listeners go today to get more information about Protect Internet Freedom?
ProtectInternetFreedom.com, and then we also have we're also obviously on Twitter and on Facebook, and please follow us, join our fight, help us make sure that the internet remains free and the government hands remain off the internet.
Mm-hmm. Now give that address one more time.
Sure, it's ProtectInternetFreedom.com.
ProtectInternetFreedom.com for those of you that like to contribute and be on the side of making sure that these costly broadband internet systems don't get built out. I'm going to talk about that a little bit in our second hour as well. That is all the time that we have today. So I want to say goodbye. I want to say thank you for the good work that you're doing, and also for your public service. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for joining us today.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's been a pleasure.
If your station is leaving us after this hour and you have a question or a comment to make about our interview with Drew Johnson, you can email me at RebeccaCosta.com or drop me a note on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're all over the internet and easy to reach. Our web address is my name. It couldn't be any easier. It's myname.com. And I bet if we didn't have control of assigning domain addresses, I probably wouldn't even be able to have that address. If you missed the full interview with Johnson or any of our other guests, you can download previous episodes of the Costa Report from Apple, iTunes, Podbean, and our YouTube channel, and also our website, again, which is myname.com, RebeccaCosta.com. KSCO.com. And be sure to link the interview that you just heard to your friends and help us reach out to anyone who may have missed the conversation today, particularly where it concerns your privacy, the privacy of your children, and so on. You play a very big part in getting information like the interview you heard today out to folks who would benefit from hearing it straight from the horse's mouth. So do your part and post and link the interview and share what we have now discovered with others. Next week, we'll be airing one of our best of 2016 interviews. While I take a little time off to be with my family for the holidays, we'll be rebroadcasting our interview with the greatest corporate turnaround expert in the world, Mr. Greg Brenneman, who was responsible for the successful turnarounds of Continental Airlines, Burger King, Quiznos, and dozens of other companies which found themselves in a tailspin. You don't want to miss Greg Brenneman. What a phenomenal businessman and an ethical, principled leader, something we don't hear much from these days. Find out how Brenneman brought these companies back to life and the simple principles that companies, large and small businesses, can follow to become and stay the leaders in their field. Brenneman has a new book out, and he covers those principles, and you don't want to miss this rebroadcast of our interview with him. That's Greg Brenneman next week, right here on the only news program that puts policy ahead of politics. Now stay tuned for another hour of Straight Talk Radio. You're listening to the Costa Report. Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, and I want to tell you about a new sponsor of the Costa Report, Michael Zwirling, the founder of ZBS Radio Associates. Michael, or MZ as he's known, is a self-made millionaire who's operated KSCO AM 1080 in Santa Cruz, California for over 25 years. But what's truly fascinating is that MZ didn't make his fortune in radio or by working for others. He built his wealth by thinking outside the box, and now he wants to share his success with you to help you get out of the rut of working day after day just to pay your bills. In the coming months, you're going to hear tips on this program from MZ and people who have followed his advice. Pay close attention, keep an open mind, and then check out the videos and websites he recommends. There's still opportunity in the land of opportunity. Let MZ show you how easy it is to turn your financial situation around today and do it all on your own terms.
Nothing keeps me young like intelligent conversation. Engaging with my community on local, national, and global issues makes KSCO Talk Radio an obvious choice. But when I can't listen and be heard, I keep the conversation going with the KSCO newsletter.
What are you doing?
Shh, Dad. I am recording a promo for the KSCO newsletter.
But you don't even have your own email address.
If I did, I would remember to add newsletter at KSCO.com to my allowed list to make sure it didn't end up in my spam box.
Well, I'd like to know about upcoming community events or riveting radio moments. How do I sign up?
You can sign up on the KSCO.com website or simply send a blank email to newsletter@ksco.com.
Serving Northern California for over 65 years. This is KSCO Santa Cruz.